Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Zayd. I'm so excited. This is our first time meeing, but we've already chatted it up. I think we had a whole podcast before the podcast.
The cameras were going.
I'm so excited. I am DeEtta Jones. Welcome to the CultureRoad Podcast. And the podcast is about what I believe to be kind of the essence of all of us, that we are all parts of cultures, and that cultures for us personally and organizationally and in our communities and across the world are transforming. Right now, that it's incredibly fast and very kind of visible and kind of visceral to all of us how that transformation is happening. And so this is a space to talk about some of that, talk about the cultures that we exist in, and then also kind of where it is that we want to create a shared path. Where are some of the kind of cultural crossroads or the places where there's distinctiveness that we want to pursue together? So that's a little bit about kind of why we're in this space. And I think the distinctiveness is particularly acute this time because you're coming from a very different space than the space that I live in on a day-to-day basis. You are a creator and you're an entrepreneur. And though I consider myself creative and an entrepreneur, the way that you do it is very different from the way that I do it. So I'm so excited to be in this space with you. Thank you so much for being here.
I can't thank you enough, DeEtta. Did I pronounce your name right?
You did.
Okay,
yes.
Okay. I'm just checking. I have a weird first name, and so I'm like really keen to get everybody's name right. But permission to be nervous, right? I'm honored to be here, right? I'm excited to talk about the things that you mentioned. A lot of the things are, like you said, like not from the same world. And so it's going to be super refreshing for me to talk about it. And I'm excited to dig in. So
I'm ready. Okay. So Zayd Portillo, tell us. So we're going to talk about your career. We're going to talk about all the cool things that you are working on right now and that you've created. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about kind of who you are and how you came to be who you are. Tell us a little bit about Zayd Portillo.
I hate questions like this, but I've learned to sum it up in a bit of, I think a lot of what I'm doing today has a lot to do with a bit of luck and a lot of preparation. So I nail it down to luck and preparation. And that has brought me places that I could have never imagined. And somehow, I would say a bit of intuition too, because somehow I had to know that I needed to be prepared to do something like this. And I'm the kind of person that did not know what I was useful for and what these random things I was good at, how they all tied together. And it didn't make sense until time started to change and, things started to change. And I started realizing that, being creative, understanding technology, caring about, people and things like that, those things kind of put you in a unique place to affect a different kind of change. And we have all these tools now that can help you bring these ideas out of your head. And I always had these ideas from music to art to design to software and to, I don't know, you name it. And so that's why it was always really hard to place even myself. And so it's luck and preparation started it off, and then meeting really amazing people to really pull certain things out of you and also put you and show you something that you don't know about yourself. And I think that I think is another just like it's one of those hidden things that you don't really you're not really aware of. But I couldn't be who I am today and who I want to be tomorrow without for the people that I've met and told me that I could.
I love it. It sounds so interesting when you talk about it. It makes me wonder, like, at what point in your life did you realize that you are a creative person? And the question that I have to ask along with that is, was that nurtured? Because a lot of times we label creative, especially now it's cool, but at some point it was like, that's not very employable, right? And so at what point in that life, in your life, did you recognize yourself as being a creative person, and to what extent was that nurtured early in your life?
It's kind of crazy, but when I was a kid, I didn't know it at the time, but I was a part of this creative problem solving competition organization called Odyssey of the Mind, and it was like this program that was like an add on. It was almost like an after school thing, but it's like this creative problem solving competition. It's worldwide. People participate and would do this. Solve these problems. Some of them are spontaneous, some of them are short form, long form, and it's this big competition. And my older brother was a part of it. My mom was a judge in it once before, and the whole. So it just became a thing that we did. And this is like maybe second grade, third grade, and my team and we went all the way to Worlds with this one year, and we finished like 19th out of like 50 teams, but it's like on a world stage. It goes like state, and so like looking back at it, I realized that okay, you know what. Creative problem solving was actually, I was fortunate enough to be a part of that experience. Like a lot of my, like it was only like 7 kids from a school would be able to participate. And that kind of set me off into this, like, it had to kind of nurture it early. And so it was something that I was put in and got familiar with early. So I would say I did have to nurture it, but then it's still, like you mentioned, like, okay, well, how do you make it employable, right? Like, it's not, I don't know, when I was a kid, it was still like, what are you going to, I gave my guidance counselors hell.
You were like, I don't fit into any of those boxes.
Yo, listen. And, then I had to be like, am I like being pretentious? Like, do I think I can be everything? Like, is that what my problem is? And I don't know. It was really, really weird. But, back to your
I love
point.
this though. I can't help. I love it though. Like I want to fit into. I want to be everything because I feel the same way my whole life.
Yeah,
I've always been like I don't like these boxes. Like none of those really apply to me. And for you to be like having the same experience is fantastic.
Listen, I realize that we're not alone. Like there's so many people who feel like that, and I feel like that for like kids coming up because I remember when I was in college, I interned with this group called Creators Camp, and their whole mission, it was really a volunteer thing, but their whole mission was, the kids of today are going to be in jobs that don't exist yet.
Yeah.
So how do you prepare them for it?
Yeah.
And like it was focused at getting kids, hands-on into what's actually changing and, outside of it's extracurricular and it's all inspired by this idea that, there's something else that we need to help complete our puzzle. And I think a big part of it has to be nurtured, but you also have to look from it externally. And so I think just a big part of that is part of the reason why I am the way I am today. Is like, I don't think the answer is on the table. I think it's, where's the hidden menu? There's something else that somebody's not showing you that you may not know about is even possible. And because I've been a benefactor of that stuff. If I didn't know about Odyssey of the Mind, or if I didn't know about rap music, you know what I mean, from my older brother or whatever it is, there's so many things that like people add into your life and you might not even know what's going on. And so I don't know, being in the mix and like being, touching a lot of things, I think helped.
Yeah.
The likeliness that you might come out, with stuff on your hands.
I love it. It's like curiosity and having kind of a dexterity towards life. Like I'm not programmed where I have to be an engineer, or I have to be a doctor, or I have to be a basketball player. Like I am interested and curious and exploratory, and all of those things are important at the time that you're doing it, not necessarily because of an end goal in mind. Like the experience of it in and of itself is important, let alone trying to achieve something long term. And then it ends up opening doors and creating this really cool tapestry.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so interesting. And now you have your hands in a bunch of really cool things. You're doing artist games. I'm just learning about that. Like I literally right this moment am learning about artist games. I'm learning about Timbo Island. I'm learning Idol. I'm learning about
Timbaland.
Timbaland. I don't even know about that one. Tell me about some of the cool stuff.
So we talked about artist games a little bit beforehand, but
I have no idea what this is.
The concept of an artist game it's really a concept we use to describe what it is we're developing and kind of the intersection that we see between ways to engage online between your favorite artist or personality and the ways that tech can make that a different relationship. And so the idea really came around seeing somebody like a Timbaland go on a screen every day and come up with some show or some concept or some game that he would play with his audience, and is thinking of ways to, you know what, this is a game. I mean, a lot of the things that we would do would be like, you know, reacting to people's music, finding their music, and, you know, spotlighting them and doing all these things. And so the idea of an artist game really came around just trying to make that fun and using tech to not make it just a, you know, a FaceTime call. There's ways to, you know, have fun around it. I don't know if I spoke directly to it.
Okay. So let's say if I am my 15-year-old son, the way that I would experience this is that I am like sitting in my dark room playing a game, and I actually am interacting with characters.
Not exactly. No. I think that's a little bit advanced. I think it's a lot simpler. Like, for example, you know, we have this show on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. We had 5 million viewers between 2021 and 22. And it was a music show where we would just go and find people's music and react to it. We took that show one night. I handed Tim an Xbox controller. And I had made this game where he had to drive around this island in Timbaland. And he would have to find people's music. And when he finds it, he would drive through it. It would play the song, and if he liked the song, he would save it, and fireworks would shoot out of the car. And if he didn't like it, it would shoot it out of the car, and it would be exploded, and you can nuke the car, and the chat could engage night mode, and all these things, and it's all happening in real time. And so the idea of an artist game is just finding a way to, you know, I mentioned, you know, I grew up playing games like SimCity, and so, you know, seeing somebody like a Timbaland and seeing where technology is today, you can make a Tim City. You can make, you know, and that's where the idea for Timbaland comes out. And so it's saying, you know, it's a different way of interacting with somebody like a Timbaland. And it's born out of, you know, just the growing trend towards richer engagement, right? Like, we can listen to music and watch podcasts all day, but socializing, creating, playing, that extra layer, you know, it drives engagement. It increases, you know, retention, and it helps people like a Timbaland, you know, gather an audience and engage with an audience one-to-one in a different way. And so, you know.
Well, it also sounds like it may help with the democratization of creativity as well. Like, now creatives are creating music that they know might be featured in one of these, and so it helps them, even if Tim is not in love with it, you know, or it doesn't choose it, you know, to pursue. Other people could potentially. So
let's talk about that. I mean, we had an example. It was very public. It was on the videos on YouTube. We had a musician upload a song through this virtual music studio we had. It was part of the show. It was another game world where we had music producers come in virtually every week and cook up music with Tim and cook up music with each other. And some of the music that got cooked up in this virtual music studio, one day we're getting ready for the next show, and Busta Rhymes calls Tim and it's like, yo, take that off the market, son. That's off the market. I need that record. I need it right now. And it actually, when's this going to come out? I can't say when it's going to come out, but I heard it's coming. I don't know when this podcast is up with, but that beat I heard is a part of a project, and that came from the show. And there's more situations where you never know who's watching. So it would absolutely be a place to spotlight people. J. Cole's Amari was found directly on that
Love it.
on the show. And so people would absolutely be spotlighted. But back to your question about, you said you have a 15-year-old. How would they be able to play? The amazing thing right now is, like, if you go on TikTok and you be a part of one of our newest engagement opportunities, right? These like game, you know, themes, Timbo Idol.
Yeah.
Right now, the concept is, you know, gifting. You can gift somebody a rose, right? We can do it where when you gift a rose, or let's say you gift a tomato, we can have it custom where tomatoes get thrown all across the screen, our own custom game animations. And so it's super simple. So like on TikTok, the gaming, you know, Tim City, Timbaland, like all these like, you know, Timbalisms. These things have fun ways of being able to show up on screen. And so like, you know, a live show where Timbaland is reacting to someone's talent or skill can result in roses being thrown on the screen or tomatoes being thrown on the screen. And, you know, giving the chat the ability to react in that way or be a part of the show in that way is a simple way of gamifying it. And it's taking that and saying, okay, well, that's a very custom thing. That didn't exist on TikTok, but we brought a Timbaland to TikTok and made Timbo Idol and are saying, hey, this is a new way to engage with a Timbaland. And, the big picture with it is, in the entertainment industry, artists have always monetized their IP, their brand, through engagement opportunities. It's always been buy my album, come to my concert, buy my merch, engage with me in this physical way. And now today we have digital ways of doing the exact same thing. And so it's really coloring in, well, how does that look? What are different ways of, and designing for it? And so it's designing ways to say, well, here's how you can digitally show up and interact with your favorite artist like a Timbaland. You can be a part of this talent show or this music discovery element or this, music competitive element or this music collaborative element that's all supported by some sort of game. We love playing games. I
love it. Okay, so I have a million questions, but please, one of them is...
I'm monologue. You got to cut me off.
No, I love it. But one of them is like... So Timbaland, I don't know exactly how old he is, but I'm assuming that we're similar, generationally speaking. And he started off his career doing something very differently, doing what he does very differently. And so now he's had to really transition into a very different way of being in relationship with, his audiences, right? What are some of the ways in which that happened? Like, of course, as artists, as creators, you're constantly kind of paying attention to. I think creative people are really good at it. But a lot of the people who, I interact with are people who are in institutions, they're in organizations, they have these systems and structures that say this is how you do X or Y, but are also really needing to continue to be relevant, really needing to continue to have voice in different spaces, needing to figure out how do we engage differently. What are some of the lessons about how it is that you helped Timbaland, in this case, through that transition in a way that could be relevant to even other people?
Some of the lessons, I would say, the lessons really come from the observations. The observations are, Timbaland came around in a time, I hate to call it legacy because he's a legend, but it's a legacy like media environment where, you have, you made it through a very small window, and the people who were put in that window got a lot of visibility. And today you can't. It's just not the same. So there's that observation, and really, me and Tim's relationship really truly began around pandemic, right? So you had that idea, that concept intensified. Like now nobody can, your visibility was severely limited. You had to be visible digitally during pandemic times because nobody was going outside. And that's when he called me. He's like, hey, you know about Twitch? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, we should, go streaming and da-da-da. We're not going back outside. And so it was, and then even for him, he's like, okay, well, in that reality, he's like, well, look, I have to, I think Skynet's calling me. Sorry, Nelnet? I don't know who that
is. We're not going back outside.
We're not going back outside. And so he was, a lot of these ideas really came about trying to express himself in a new way.
Yeah.
He was like, look, we have all this technology. We have these cameras. He was not comfortable with being on a camera. He was comfortable being on a stage. He was comfortable being in front of people. Surprisingly, he's more comfortable with just even on microphone versus camera and microphone, because of radio. He comes from that world. And so he had a lot to kind of adapt to. And so I think that was sort of me seeing, okay, this is how people show up digitally, and him knowing this is how this is how you run a show, and this is how you move an audience and move people. Taking those two things and putting it together, I think, was born out of the lesson that you have to adapt and grow.
Yeah. And also stretch, to have somebody who has been incredibly successful, like you said, a legend, have to say, okay, there's yet something else in front of me that I have to learn, and maybe even something that I'm not comfortable at, or I haven't yet been proficient, haven't developed proficiency around, that I have to learn. I mean, it's an important lesson for everybody, regardless of how successful we've been in the past. The world around us keeps changing. There are things that are unprecedented, like COVID, that are forcing even legends to totally reimagine how they show up in a space and stay kind of engaged with the people who have been like their primary audience for all these years. It's a really important lesson, especially for people who are like of a legacy generation, trying to figure out how we push
and we're still
through.
in the middle of it, because like a big part of the modern day push is like, okay, a Timbaland can show up on these platforms, but like these platforms own the audience, like, right? So then there's that argument. Well, like, well, how do I own my audience again? Tim came from that world where he, that relationship that he had with an audience was, they bought his music and consumed his stuff, and now, they get him by way of another place, and that by way of, that's where all the murkiness is. And so now it's about being inventive about, well, how do we bring people back to your stage and like your thing? And that's where, the ideas of, how do you engage with a Timbaland? We have to be on the verge of making like a Tim Talk, right? Like a TikTok for Timbaland, because it's like you have your own audience. These people grew up on you, and like they want to see you. And they want to engage with you, and still in a new way. And there's new people that are knowing you, and there's new ways that you can show up. And what does that look like? And how do people, how does it sustain itself, and so on.
So interesting. It's interesting. The other thing I was asking you before the show is, all this creative energy takes a lot of energy. And you were mentioning how sometimes you just kind of go into a rabbit hole and you're just in there. And I was expressing like, wow, I'm kind of jealous. I would love to just spend, uninterrupted X number of time, days or hours or, weeks, just deep in a hole, like exploring something. And it's really important that you also know what's happening in the world so that you can pay attention to those changes. How do you, as a creative person, manage the balance of being able to like have that creative energy and that space where you just like wall yourself off and go deep, as opposed to kind of navigating and staying current on like what's happening in the world? And the reason I'm asking that is because just over the weekend, we had another mass shooting, and there's so much toxicity that continues to be, part of our day-to-day reality. And so I'm imagining there might sometimes be a pull with trying to like the intake of just the ugliness that can exist in the world, and the need to also be kind of connected. How do you manage your own energy, and how do you create that space for yourself to maintain your creative energy?
My grandfather had a quote he would say to me. He was like, when something's on the news, by definition, it's unlikely. That's why it's news. And it's one of those calming like mantras I try to remember, like, hey, this is unlikely. That's why it's news. It's happening because it's only news because it's unlikely, quote unquote, right? And so it's one of those things I try to remind myself of, like, okay, you still got to live your life. You can't live a certain way in response to something else. Like, you can have things respond to you in a certain way. But then it also, honestly, I have to say, I can detach really terribly. Like I can just, I don't know, Thanos snap it. Like, hey, okay, that's not happening right now. And just like, zone out, because I just think it's required. Like, I don't think you have a choice. Like if you have to sit around and think about it, like you're lucky because you're still breathing, like you just kind of gotta, I don't know. I don't think there's a choice in it. Because like, it just is what it is. But there's movies and great shows on TikTok where you can spotlight your music and get your talent out, right? And focus on that.
Right. So it's literally like I just have to like cut off some of that and just go deep into the spaces where I want to create and be in that space. Yeah. Yeah, it's almost a survival mechanism, right? It's like it has to. But the creative space, when you get into a studio space or whatever, just all of a sudden you just click on and you just in a whole different energy space.
Yeah, it's like I think urgency kind of starts it. It's like, okay, there's if I don't, that fear, there's so many things. I don't know. It's like if I don't do, the fear that if I don't, or even the sense of duty kind of keeps me on the ball, like a feeling like, okay, somebody else would kill to do this.
Yeah.
Like you get to do this, and like, doing it for others and all those things, I think are coping mechanisms in a way. And having faith, I got to say that.
Yep.
I feel like a lot of people don't really have faith, and faith used to come from a certain place, like a religious place. And a lot of people, are finding, or maybe haven't encountered what faith looks like. But I feel like faith is a big missing thing right now, because like, I can't tell you what to have faith in externally, but I can say that, a lot of things are like rain clouds, and it's like, you gonna hold on to that umbrella, or you just gonna complain about it? I don't know. I feel like you gotta just realize that the sun comes out again.
I love it. Yeah.
So
okay, I'm gonna shift gears hard.
Please, come on.
Okay. Artificial intelligence.
Let's go.
Please tell me what's going on. I know that you are deep in AI. I also know that I'm constantly getting stories like this about even people who invented AI are like, we're going down a bad path. Watch out. I know we talked about like young people who have been pursuing degrees for multiple years, get to the end of their degree with this much debt, and then all of a sudden the thing that they want to pursue is no longer even really a job because AI can do it maybe. Tell me about AI. Like, what is it? Where's it going? How's it impacting us in the business world?
I think if you know what good output looks like, AI is for you. I think if you know what how to ask a question, or if you can just think of different ways of even seeing it in movies. Like, I mean, I feel like a lot of movies kind of set the pretext for what's happening today. But I think if you're a creative person and you know what good output looks like, I think AI will help you get it. And I don't think there's anything to fear about it if you know what good output looks like. If you're a person, though, that loves the process and loves to pull out the fountain pen and dip it in ink and, lick the paper and get your scrolls out and sit down and do all that process stuff, you're going to hate AI because it is here to eat your process up alive. And so that is, I think, the two-sided coin with it. It's like, look, if you know how to get the output out, you're good.
But what about people I have so many questions, but what about people what are the creative people's role in the output? Just to be able to identify what the output is and to continue to tweak the AI algorithm to make sure that the output is the right
It should be
quality.
Applied, right? And I think there's going to be different categories where, there's a big category of art that is just about expression. And so it's like, I think AI art is going to be a different category of expression, and expression is still going to exist, right? You can express, like we saw that banana, duct tape to the wall 2 Art Basels ago. And that's just about expression,
right?
And how you perceive it is the art. That's whatever that is, that relationship between you and that's the art experience. And that is always going to stay. So I just think I think the way we express ourselves is going to change. And like, you're starting to see different people that can actually take these tools and say, wait a minute, hold on, I can express myself now. Like, I had this idea in my head and now you can see it. And like, that changes things. Like, so many people are like stuck between this labor of creation where it's like, there's something in my head, and you've probably felt it. Like there's, we've been like, we've benefited from that sort of like, autocomplete. Like, we didn't always have Pinterest to make mood boards.
Right.
You see what I mean? And it's like, that part, it's like, well, no, this is just another way of, creating good output, like part of it, that process. It always happens. I just think now we have a new way of doing it. And if you love the old way of doing it, you're going to be upset.
Yeah. So what is it that has got people who, like, are inventors of AI so worried? Is it that they're worried about jobs? Or are they worried that the AI
is going to get... It's the next step of it. It's the next step of it. It's when AI starts making AI, that starts making AI, that starts doing AI, that starts thinking of stuff that we ain't even think about. And then it's like, all right, hold on, wait a minute, we ain't think about this. That part. And understanding, like, what that means. And, I don't have those answers. What I would say is, like, we still are always, like, I have you have to be comfortable with competition in any marketplace, economy, civilization, whatever. You have to be comfortable with competition. And I think these AIs have a crazy, So it's like you have to be able to keep up with it. And I think now we can still keep our pace with AI. I don't know where it's going to go around the corner, but I do know that like we're still people at the end of the day, and like what we want and what fills us is still going to there's always going to be a market for that. I don't know exactly who's going to be the makers of it. I think people are always going to, it's up to us at the end of the day. I don't think it's going to be some AI that's making choices for us, right? Like,
I don't know.
Hopefully this video ages well.
I don't know, but I do think that the way that you described it, you have to be comfortable with competition. And I also think about like we've always had major technological iterations. I mean, major technological iterations. When we went from file cabinets in offices and, the huge data storage facilities to having laptops to having everything on our phone. We've always gone through major technological transformations. And so this is another one. And we've always been afraid of them, right? We're always afraid of a major transformation at the beginning of it. And so, again, this is probably something that we'll get used to, and it's part of our evolutionary or kind of transformational process. But it is intimidating to think about it. It's intimidating.
Incredibly. I don't know what to tell kids. It's just like, hey, do you know how to type a sentence? And really, it's just like thinking about like, on Twitter, there's great threads about how to talk to AI. And I had a buddy call me the other day. He's like, hey, man, I'm about to release this song. I'm looking for like a rollout plan. And like, can I send you my rollout plan? And like, what do you think? And, how can I? Then I'm like, listen, man, whatever your notes are, you need to copy and paste them into your favorite AI program and ask the AI, improve this and recommend things that I didn't consider.
Love it.
And it could fix your plan for you. And it's like, it could help you with ideation if you just thought about, he's like, yo, I never thought about asking it to improve my idea. Or like, like stuff like that. And it's like, some 12-year-old is going to think about that.
Yeah.
They're probably already thinking about that. You know what I mean? Like they could write a better script for this entire, I'm not saying that you guys don't have an amazing script for what Culture Road Podcast is, but the point is like somebody could come through and be like, hey, here's your next 3 seasons.
Yeah. With
enough preparation. And it's like,
oh, noted. Can we just jot that down? Somebody.
Yo, man, listen, somebody, I forget who it was. It was some conversation where somebody lost their job around, there used to be a podcast note taker. I think I saw this on Twitter, podcast note taker. And the AI lost their, the AI can do that, right? Like you can, do that. So,
but it's forcing us to like dig deep into ourselves. And it also is, there's part of me that thinks I don't want us to lose our kind of muscle around certain things that are really important for us to have strength around. But part of that is just kind of the process anyway, where people used to write, when I was young, we used to write cursive. I wrote something in cursive the other day and people were like, what is that? I was like, they were like, I've never seen that before in my life. I'm like, you've never seen cursive ever? Yeah. And then on and on and on. And it's the same kind of developmental process. But when I look at my son who does not write cursive, he has strength just native, like just kind of born, right? It's part of his entire life that are totally different than things that I have strengths in, and things that are definitely going to set him up for the next generation of success. What are some of the things around AI that you're working on? I know that you and Timbaland have been working on some really cool AI things. Anything
the other day we
share?
broke the internet a little bit. Did you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, we did. We had this, Tim and I were working on this concept, and we're calling it a personal art piece because I think it's the best way to approach it today, right? Because you can't really put out some of these things out for, official consumption. But we had this, Tim has never made a song. He never got the opportunity to make a song with Biggie. And to add on to that point, he never got a chance to hear what Biggie sounds like, or a Biggie tone, what it sounds like on his music. And, it had always been something he had expressed to me long before AI voices and what that is doing today. But one day, following up on this idea that he had in his head and just that expressing that to me, he walked in the studio a couple days ago and I had it. And it was one of these like happy accidents. And I played it and he went crazy. He was like, yo, this could go. Yo, play that again. And that's how I know, like, it was super dope. And it was just one of those things. And so, in the AI world right now, we're really kind of testing the electric fence, because there is an electric fence around artists and expression we talked about. Like, the main one is like, okay, whose authority is it who can give authority for the artist to express themselves, right? Like, if you take somebody's likeness and just produce unauthorized copies of it, the idea is dilute this person's right to express themselves. Right. And that's really the main thing. And so that's kind of what the electric fence is made of. But, the concept and reason why I call it like an art piece is because Tim was able to hear what Biggie would sound like over his music. And it was just a personal revelation that we were able to share in a public way. And, it was something that just fit. And, what it really turned out, what it really became, it was a conversation around, well, what is this? Right? Because we're on the heels of The Weeknd and the Drake song, where somebody just came out and, misappropriated the tones of two artists, right? And it was this big, like, how dare you, right? Do that. But in the situation with Tim and the Biggie clone voice is that, Tim is notable by his own means, right? And so it's not just stealing a Biggie voice. You're here already because it's a Tim.
Right.
And now you get to hear another,
another version.
Right. And so it brings you to the table to say, okay, well, do I like this? What does this sound like? How does this make me feel? Is this a crime against somebody, right? All of these things are now the conversation. Instead of throw that out of here, get that. There's a lot of that too. Like, a lot of like people are anti-AI voices, but honestly, like, knowing the process, like, it's really just like a filter. It's really just like auto-tune, and a lot of people are looking at it like it's a robot becoming Biggie. It's like, no, they're not becoming. Like, it's honestly, it's my talking voice with a filter on it. Right. And it's really to just give a idea. And, I don't know if it could ever be released for official consumption, but it's really just touching the forefront of like, okay, well, it's out. Yeah. We don't have a choice, guys. We can sit here and put red tape and believe in this electric fence, but it's already here. So we got to get with it, or we're going to get left behind.
I love it though. But somebody like me who like grew up on rap and like loves like to be able to imagine those voices together and to be able to imagine what a collaboration would sound like, and to be able to do that across different genres and different voices. And I mean, and we've done certain things like that kind of in the past, right? We've had those kinds of things. They may not have been AI voices or clone voices, but we've been able to have appreciation for those cross-generational or collaborative experiences. It's cool.
And some people have taken Biggie's actual voice and made terrible mixes.
Exactly.
Remixes. So I'm like, hey, listen, it's...
Which one is the worst to try?
Yeah, but the other side of it too is like, is one way of looking at, I look at it as like, Bad Boy invented the remix, right? So it's like, hey, there's a new way of remixing. And if we want to talk about it, we can talk about it.
Like an ode to Bad Boy. I love it.
But here's the other side of it too, is like, with Tim and Swiss, when they did Versus, they had this thing called the Versus effect. When you had these two icons go head to head on screen and it creates this digital sensation, it resulted in higher streams for these catalogs, that they would just be revived, and you would see them revived back to the top of somewhere on the charts. Hey, people are thinking about these artists.
Right.
And so I'm going to be honest with you. Like, after I heard that Biggie clone voice we did, I couldn't stop listening to Biggie all week. I was listening to Biggie riding around in the car, and I'm like, yo, I'm listening. The copies made the original worth more in a way.
I agree. I totally can understand that. And Versus is a great example of me being like, oh, I love them. And then next thing you know, I'm like deep into the pool, re-listening to all of these things that I've loved for a long time, but this dropped off my radar. It's a great example.
So it's like, there was articles on Rolling Stone, Complex, TMZ, you name it. All these guys talked about that moment. I'm like, hey, man, people are thinking of Biggie. Like, I want to see what's the streaming numbers do? Like, what is that doing right now? Like, how does this affect it? Like, we don't know. And so that's part of Tim's genius. Is like, hey, man, like, we just don't know, but it's here now. Yeah. You remember Death to Auto-Tune, right? How'd that go over?
Right.
All right. So, like, what are we doing? It didn't replace singers.
Yep.
Like we thought it would. So it's like, what is this going to be? Like, we don't know. So let's just throw it at the electric fence. Don't press what button? This button?
I love it though. I feel like that's a true creative spirit. There's so many times people are so worried about this or that, but I feel like that's the definition of a true creative and inventor, right? To push, push, push. That's how we grow. And for you to kind of model that, like, it's not just bravery. It is bravery when you have a feeling that people might not get it or there may be some backlash, but more importantly, we got to go. We got to try it.
Yeah, I think there needs to be rules around how and who gets to do it, but I don't know where it's going to go. None of us know where it's going to go.
And the rules are going to have to be revised over time because the world is changing and the technology is changing and all that we have available to us. So the last question I want to ask you is a little bit about kind of your other venture, the Light Energy Lab.
So Light Energy is actually the powerhouse behind a lot of these engagement opportunities that we've had with Tim over the years. So Tim and I co-founded Light Energy Labs a little bit, I think a little late last year, but officially, Light Energy is a gaming company, and specifically around live stream gaming with a very special focus on music games.
Nice.
And, we're dedicated, our mission is to, redefine the relationship between artists and their audiences and create tools that empower their audiences and that relationship. And so every day we're on a mission to redefine that relationship, and we've done it with ways like we developed this app called the Beatbox. It was like a Tinder for beats, and that's how we ran the whole live show where we were just looking for the hottest producers around the world. And that was a tool that helped us redefine the relationship that an artist had, or the audience had, with a Timbaland. Hey, here's how I can get my music, so on and so forth. And so Light Energy, the whole tagline, we work with stars to unleash the power of digital communities. And so we're using that digital screen, the thing that's powered by, light, quote unquote, right? But like at the end of the day, working with stars to unleash the power of digital communities. That's the whole tagline. So we're making tools to do that.
Tinder for beats. Perfect.
Yeah, that was the Beatbox. Yeah, it was a Tinder for beats. Yo, listen, we had it. We were swiping left and right on them good and bad beats. It was good. Everybody got it, right? And yeah, so that whole thing. And so me and Tim's vision for it is really to be at the forefront of this intersection between, live streaming, music, gaming, and, what ownership looks like and digital communities and how you can, put a circle around it and make like a Timbaland, like a if Timbaland made his own SimCity game.
Are you working with other artists to do this? I'm assuming that there's other people.
Yeah.
Collaborating
Oh my
with,
God. There's some geniuses. Oh my God. There's some geniuses that I'm fortunate enough to work with because and just even come to know people. Just our team that we're building behind it. And so people that come from software engineering, UI, UX, game development on Unity, Unreal Engine, blockchain, Solidity devs. Really remarkable people that are coming together to build what this, we call it like a monument to creative people. So whatever the audience, the community that we've come to know over the last few years, building that ecosystem of ways to engage with somebody like a Tim.
Yep.
And then, building that and taking that template and saying, okay, other artists and audiences and bringing those tools to those other relationships in different ways. You can, I don't want to tease a lot of the ideas, but.
One of the things that it's so interesting talking to you because I started off talking about how the work that we do is so different. And the more I listen, the more I feel like it's really familiar. And I know you have a whole different set of skills. There's no question about it. But a lot of what you're talking about is and I think you even talked about it some when you were describing a little bit about your passions, being, the creativity and the technology and caring about people. And a lot of that are the same kinds of skills that a lot of people have now. And a lot of our clients, people who come to me or who I work with are either those people themselves or they're people who are employing those people. And they're constantly looking for what are some of the tips and techniques associated with helping people feel like they're thriving in their workplace, like the work that they do is meaningful, like they have a sense of community and a sense of belonging. And it sounds to me like some of those things are also things that you constantly have to be thinking about with the group of people you're coming with who come from different kinds of backgrounds and experiences, but you need to create a cohesive experience. What is it that you do in order to help facilitate that sense of community and thriving?
It is 1,000% in energy. And I say that without any puns, but it comes from, I think, honestly, I mentioned earlier as a kid being a part of a creative team.
Yep.
And seeing what that can do and how the different parts come together to form this bigger solution to a problem. And I've always believed in that because I've seen it work before. So I know what it feels like to be in it and when you're not in that energy. It's like, okay, hey, listen, we don't have that synergy. Like, we're missing like 4 people right now. There's 4 imaginary people that would be, turning an axe right now or turning a wrench right now and getting, it takes activation energy. So I think one, just knowing what that feels like, but then also understanding, I had to realize that in my solo journey to then, work with teams and like build teams and then a company alongside somebody like a Tim. It's just like sometimes you got to get out of the way of the magic. You know what I mean? And like understand that everybody has a zone of genius. And, my zone of genius is that I've been practicing in is keeping everybody else in their zone of genius.
Love it. Great.
You know what I mean? And it's like, hey, you do this, you're really good at this and you're really good at this and that part. And then also just being a battery for it. Like that's another part of it. It's like just giving somebody like, hey, like, you did this, you got this, thank you for working hard and like spotlighting what somebody's been doing and like, I don't know, get one-on-one time. Like, there's a lot of ways that goes into the back end. Taking great advice, having great people that give you advice. Yeah. All those things, I think.
Those are all fantastic things that I'm going to specifically remember to tell all of my clients when we're talking about leadership and management, because it's the exact same thing, right? Creating a space where there's amazing energy, getting out of the way of magic. I am totally going to use that over and over with attribution. It's amazing.
And you gotta take the darts for your peoples, man.
Yeah.
Like I take a lot of risks and a lot of heat so that they don't got to take that heat and deal with those risks. And that's the other part of it is like, you got to know how to take that heat.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure, but it's important. Like that's the leadership role.
Well, yeah, if it don't work, it's you.
Yeah, exactly.
Y'all look good.
Y'all look good. I'm in the way. I love it. I feel like I walked into this conversation knowing that I was going to learn a lot and excited about it. And now we're winding down thinking, I'm so grateful that I had this conversation with you. I learned so much. Okay, the last thing I'm going to ask you before we're done. Okay, we've been asking everybody this.
Okay.
If this is going to be easy for you, I bet. If you could tell us the soundtrack of your life right now, the one song that you're just really vibing with right now in your life, what is it and why?
Don't do that. We do that on Timbo Idol. You funny. You got to watch the show. We do that. So
no pressure.
All right. Well, I'm going to go. This is a song that has been the anthem. And it's a song called Vienna. Oh my God. Don't quote me. I just remember the song name. The person who makes it. Billy Joel. Thank you. Other me. Billy Joel, Vienna. It's a song that I found by accident, and it's just a song that, it's about wanting to be somewhere and have a place that's calling your name. And, the whole message of the song is that place is calling your name too, and like it's waiting for you. And so it's like one of those mantras that I kind of go back to, and it kind of keeps me in a place of zen. Like, all right, this thing you're imagining in your life, is imagining you too. And so Vienna in the song by Billy Joel, Vienna, he wants to go to Vienna, and Vienna's waiting for him. And so
I love it.
It kind of I have a lot of anxiousness, and I'm like, I'm young, and like, we want to be there already, right?
Yeah,
and we don't know what time is, and we just think it's supposed to be tomorrow, and why am I not there yet? And all of that.
Yeah.
Vienna is the answer to that feeling, because it's like, hey, relax, bro. This is the journey. It's waiting for you. So like, anyway. And
it's calling you too. That's the good part too. It's not just you like trying to force something that isn't already got your name on it. I love it.
Yeah. I'm happy you didn't start with that one. That's an emotional song.
Oof. I can't. I actually don't even know the song. I probably have heard it, but I'm definitely gonna have that one stuck in my head. I'm gonna listen to that.
yeah. Late night drive by the water.
Okay. Yeah. Now I can just imagine.
Yep. You just no.
But I know what it's like to be young and anxious. I know what it's like to be not so young and anxious. I understand that what that creative energy.
Oh my God.
Energy. Okay, no tears today.
Listen, I just went down this list yesterday. I was calling everybody to ask them what their sad song is. You got a sad song? What's your sad song? What's your sad girl song?
Okay, I don't know if it all the time, but I think the saddest one is probably "Dance with My Father."
Oh, that's a go-to. Oh my God.
No, yeah. I lost my father almost a year ago right now, and we used to sing it. We used to sing it even when we were together. I can't believe it. So, yeah, you got me with that one.
Everybody got their songs, man. We got to make a master play. Do I know another one?
You know another one that's really good? Just without now. Prince, Another Lonely Christmas.
Jeez, you really got that.
That'll really make you cry, won't it? Like that, you can't help but cry.
You can't.
Can't help. Okay, now we're gonna end this amazing conversation with tears in our eyes, but like love in our heart and like a ton of just gratitude for, I think, recentering for me some of the importance of being able to kind of separate out like where my creative and visionary like headspace is and energy is, as opposed to like all of the stuff that we can easily get caught up in as far as the world, remembering what it takes to be an amazing leader, including getting out of the way and letting the magic happen, but also standing up for, our people. And also just that desire to like make something happen, just, make it happen and bring the space together that we want to flourish in. I really appreciate this time with you, Zayd. It's been amazing.
Thank you. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you. I can't wait. We got to do another one of these.
Done.
After the AI aftermath.
I cannot wait. And good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Good luck with everything.
Cheers.